Welcome to FOSS Backstage. It is I, your fearless leader, who has lost his little microphone thing, and I'm putting it back on. Loud noise. Sorry about that. So it's Richard. I'm here at Berlin and FOSS Backstage with Omotola Eunice Omotayo. Omotola, it's great to have you on. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no. So you are a member of OSCA, and you gave a talk yesterday. What was your talk about?
Yesterday, I talked about contributors' engagement and monetization opportunities.
Excellent. How do you know about that? What do you do for your day job?
What do I do?
What do you do for your day job?
Okay, I work full-time with Outreach, an open source program, like a fellowship. So I serve as one of the organizers.
Amazing.
And I manage the community there.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I also work with Chimoni. Chimoni is a payment infrastructure, and I help with the community and dev relation stuff.
Excellent. Outreach is a massive project. They do a lot. How many people do they have on staff?
So currently, because Outreach is like a project under Software Freedom Conservancy, we have the organizers, 3 organizers, and we have executive directors, and we have like other person's staff from the Software Freedom Conservancy team.
So Software Freedom Conservancy, the SFC, run by Karen Sandler. That's amazing. How many applications did you get this last year?
Oh, we got over 6,000.
6,000.
Over 6,000 applications.
I'm so sorry for you. How many people do you have to go through all those?
We have application reviewers, actually.
Okay,
we have persons that review this application alongside with the Outreach organizers.
Cool. So do you, as someone who helps out with Outreach, who is on staff, do you specialize in a certain area of Outreach, or are you helping everyone in Outreach? How does that work?
Okay, so personally, as a community manager, I support the Outreach applicants, the Outreach interns, manage communications between this group of persons and the organizers, and as well manage the social media platforms for Outreach. You can say there's a lot of conversation, advocacy on social media about what Outreach is. And if you look back a few months now, since I joined the team, you'll see a massive advocacy on social media. Yeah. So that's what I do, basically supporting the applicants, telling them more about the program, guiding them through every of the steps. And when they get in as an intern, also supporting them, making sure everything goes well and ensuring they have a safe space and they make the best use of the internship period.
How many interns are there?
The last cohort, we have over 60 applicants, interns,
Interns. So you know them all by name at some point. Maybe. Let's pretend. Sure.
Okay. So what I did for the last cohort is I tried to create a one-on-one relationship with them to better understand how they're enjoying the program, any issues they're facing, maybe they're struggling with anything, how Outreach can better support them, get to understand the open source, how they're coping with the open source space, right? And with this, it's helped me to have a better relationship with each of these interns. So I must say, office hours with the Outreach interns, it's a perfect way so far to get to understand them.
So assuming that you meet with one of them, each one once a month, that's 2 a day, which is exhausting. So I'm just curious, how do you manage that and social media? Because I struggle with this too. I want to know, what's the insider tips?
Okay. So I have my office every week, every Friday.
Yeah.
And I have Outreach interns book. I have 30 minutes conversation with them.
Yeah.
So I open up my work time between 9 to say 6 p.m. my time, and I have this 30 minutes slot. So in a week, I talk to over more than 5. Let me put it that way. More than 5. And managing it with social media, I think the first thing I do is I prioritize my time. Yeah. Social media, as a way it works, there are times where I always have my content ready. So if I have actually has maybe chats that wants to go on, I have this content ready, schedule the content. All I have to do is go back there to engage, which I can do even if I'm communicating with you right now. I can say, I can quickly drop that. So it's been very easy managing, my day-to-day tasks, email communication, social media communication.
Yeah.
And above all, I work with the best teammates. And I said, shout out to both of you. They are really very supportive, collaborative. They're ready to work with me to get any tasks done.
Yeah.
And they're just the best teammates. So it makes everything super easy.
Which teammates are you talking about?
The outreach team.
Yeah.
That's Sage and Anna.
Okay, excellent. And are they also helping you with social media?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So you have multiple people on it all the time. Excellent. Have you found that the Twitter meltdown and the API issues where they've been closing that off has made it harder to schedule things?
So Twitter closing down, I don't really schedule my content on Twitter.
Okay.
And right now I try to make use of other platforms as well, not just Twitter for Asuchi. Asuchi is on Mastodon, we're on YouTube, having coffee chats with interns, past interns, mentors, and we're also on LinkedIn. So it's not just focus on Twitter.
Cool.
Yeah.
Software Freedom Conservancy is notorious for only allowing open source tools. How do you deal with that?
Okay, so my team, because of what we believe in, what we support, and what we advocate for, we mostly use open source software.
Okay.
Yes. And I must say it's really good because we are creating a safe space for everyone.
Excellent.
We want everyone to be inclusive. We want everyone to use free softwares, right? So we use tools, softwares that you don't need to pay for.
Yep.
And you feel comfortable using because you don't have to worry about your data being exposed.
Yep.
So, and that is why I mentioned that we're not just on Twitter. So if you don't feel comfortable using Twitter, you can connect with us on YouTube, on Mastodon, or via newsletter.
So as a social media manager, as a community manager, as an intern manager, these are all management roles. And these are all roles where you're working with people who are working with code, but you're not working with code on a daily basis unless you figure out where to find the time for that. So how do you do that?
Okay. So this might not apply to everyone, but for me personally, I studied computer science.
Cool. Awesome.
I have a background in tech.
Yeah.
But trust me, we have my teammates, Anna, doesn't have a background in tech. I think they studied engineering.
Okay.
And they're doing well. So that doesn't mean because I have a background in tech, I can do all these things. But because I have a background in tech and, this tech world, you keep learning, right? I remember since I joined the associate team, I might not get to work with coding, programming every day, but because of my experience, because of my knowledge, my skills of being ready to take up opportunities, learn more, do more research, I've had to work with my team in using some, getting some tasks done technically. And I've been doing very well with that. And as a community manager, developer relation manager, I think it's easier for me to communicate with developers, communicate with people doing programming and other stuffs because I have the experience, I understand the terminologies. And sometimes if I don't understand, that is why documentation is there. That is why research to know more is there. I do, it's like a primary task on my own to get to understand these things better so that I can communicate. And trust me, I don't I make it a point of duty to ask for help. If I need my teammates to explain something, I ask questions a lot.
Cool.
I can reach out to my teammates. Oh, this thing, what are they trying to say? Can you help me understand better? I understand it so I can communicate it better with my audience.
Earlier, you mentioned your time. Where do you live?
Nigeria. Abuja, Nigeria. That's Africa.
Okay, cool. Excellent. OSCA, Open Source Community Africa, is the largest group of open source people in Africa, I believe, but definitely in Nigeria, where it's mainly based. They have a conference for a year. Samson just announced the next one, I believe, although we don't know exactly when or where. Well, we know when, not where, right?
July. This year.
Okay, cool. So that'll be fun.
Yes.
I'm always amazed how much energy comes out of OSCA, how many people show up for it, traveling from all over just to go to this super awesome conference, and they always seem super excited. I don't know what it is about Nigerian English, but it just seems to be like, let's go. It's really, really cool. I had a conversation earlier with, I can't remember the exact vowels. I'm having a really bad day with names today. I'm jet lagged.
It's okay.
I had a really good experience with someone from VMware. I think her name was Masai Shida. who was talking about how, without stereotyping, she was saying there's a tendency for Japanese people to be more polite and not want to interrupt and not want to ask and not want to say, excuse me, I don't understand, because it interrupts the flow of conversation. It makes it a bit harder for some people with an Asian background in particular to ask questions a lot. I've never experienced that from Nigeria. And so the question I have you noticed a tendency among Nigerian developers to be like, whoa, wait a minute, what's going on? Can you explain this to me? I'm just curious if there's a cultural thing that makes it so great to get into open source because you're from Africa.
Okay, one thing that I would really love to highlight is Nigerians were known to be strong, determined, to get things done.
Yeah.
We are extra strong. And, that quench for wanting to know more, wanting to be, we are not really provided with these opportunities, or we don't have the right resources.
Yeah.
But as an individual, as Nigerians, we have these special skills, let me use the word.
Vim, fire. Yeah.
Okay. To accomplish a lot.
Yeah.
To, put out outputs that are really, but because we don't have the right resources in our, right?
Yeah.
When we see opportunity to unleash that potential that we have, we make good use of it without looking back.
Cool.
So it's like there's a goal.
Yeah.
You don't have the right movement to get there.
I just want to point out that our listeners can't see your wonderful hand motions, but thank you for them. So, yes, the right movement to get there.
That's the right movement to get there. And you see or learn about an opportunity to actually be part of something.
Yeah.
To learn something to enhance yourself. We go in for it. Fully in for it.
Amazing.
So talking about Open Source Africa has been doing really so well. Just like you mentioned, it's actually the biggest community open source in Africa.
Yep.
And they've done well with advocacy.
Yeah.
Bringing in a lot of, new contributors to open source. I think right now people are already aware. There's good advocacy there. People are aware that, regardless of my background, there is a space I can contribute.
Yep. I
can be part of a solution.
Yep.
Part of the discussion that we had at FOSS Backstage from yesterday is now people don't want to. There are goals. There are some goals why some persons actually contribute to open source. The goal might be because you want to make. Okay. So there are different goals.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to empower yourself. You want to develop your career. You want to make more money. So you see Nigerians going fully for it. And I'll just use that opportunity to say, contributors, now back to my talk, contributors should be appreciated.
Yep.
Companies should go in for, these contributors are making this solution, building this solution, provide opportunities for them, maybe resources, supporting their projects, financing, donating, communities like Oscar First, Open Source Africa.
Sorry.
To support them, donate to them, and so that you can fully enjoy the potentials that we have in Africa.
I love that. Thank you so much. I also like the characterization of Nigerians as strong, go-getter people. That makes me feel, it just feels great. I want to know, Outreachy, 60 participants, 6,000 applicants. How else can Western communities show up to enable more members of OSCA, more open source contributions, more diverse people, contributors to show up? How can we do that? Any ideas? Any thoughts? And I asked Samson this question last month at State of Open too. So I'm sorry if I'm a repeating wheel here.
It's okay. It's okay. So I would just say countries now provide more opportunities for these persons. It might be supporting these communities that they belong to.
Yeah.
Internship fellowships like Outreachy.
Yep.
Outreachy has the potential of taking more interns.
Yep.
If we have the right support, you can come in as mentors to, guide someone, empower someone who is just coming in, and compensate contributors, appreciate their efforts.
Cool.
And be more inclusive.
Yeah.
For programs, conferences like these and many other opportunities, give them discount rates, invite them, have a one-on-one conversation with them, check their contributions, highlight those people who are really contributing.
Yeah.
People want to know that people are providing value. They want to be recognized for that.
Yeah.
I think these are just some of the ways you can support contributors.
Awesome. That sounds great. Where can we support you online? Where can we find your words and what you do?
I'm very active on LinkedIn and Twitter.
Cool.
Very, very active at elegance_Tolly on Twitter, and on LinkedIn, Omotola Eunice Omotayo. And also, Asrichi is on all those platforms I mentioned earlier.
Yeah. And of course, people can sign up to be mentors of Outreach, which you did say. If you want to hear more about that, we just had Samira Goal on, who helps with mentors, and talked a bit about how that's really useful as well. Thank you so much for coming on. It was really great to have you.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
So, hello, everyone. Welcome back to FOSS Backstage with Richard Littauer. I'm trying to adjust my own levels today, so we'll see how this goes. But that should work. I'm here today joined by Jan Ainali. Jan, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. All right, so we're at FOSS Backstage in Berlin, and Jan Ainali is here, and he is from publiccode.net. We've talked with him before on this podcast, so if you want to access that, listeners, you can go to podcast.oss.org. I have not met Jan in the flesh, so there he is. He's a real person, which is very exciting. And he's given me this set of beautiful cards, which is pretty cool. There's some purple ones with nice designs, and they're kind of like playing cards. And tell me a bit about this card game. What's going on?
Yes, so this is a card game that we simply call just the governance game.
The governance game.
Meant to get you started talking about governance in your code base.
Huh.
And it sort of sprung out a set of workshops where we had like Post-its and large tables of papers, and people were drawing stuff.
Yep.
And it was really like interactive, but a little bit too loose. So we thought, like, hey, maybe this could be something more reusable that we can have use more often.
Yeah.
Which sort of like turned us to the idea, will this become a game? And then we tried it with more like with set cards and a plan. And it worked really well to get people really hyped up about talking something boring as governance.
That's amazing.
Because that is usually the thing people don't really want to talk about in an open source code base.
No, it's horrible. It's horrible.
Yes.
It sounds like government. No one wants to talk about
Yes.
those things. This is really cool. So there's like starting states, and there's bugs and a scenario. You have developed an open source public Wi-Fi management system. Another municipality have replicated it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's various cards like commissioning public organizations. It's amazing. So tell me again, what does public code do?
Yeah, so the Foundation for Public Code, we help public organizations to collaborate when they develop software to serve something of their public purposes. And all the scenarios in here are, of course, like based on that idea that there's something like public organizations doing, but nothing's stopping you. We even have in the upcoming release a card, make your own scenario, where you actually describe your situation so you can do it because that's how we most often use it when we're not just having a random workshop with random people.
Yeah.
Then we go into very customized talk to people like, well, who are your stakeholders? Who are involved? And what are your actual problems? Let's talk about them. In here, we have a few calamities that are based on things that we've seen in the world, or at least something that could happen. So they're not like totally out there. But sometimes in specific, we make some extra calamity cards as well. One of my favorite that we don't have in the game right now is a community that is very reliant on one single core contributor. What happens if he wins the lottery and takes off? Like that's the really big calamity, go sailing. All right, well, where's our documentation? Do we need to make something before this? It really gets the conversation started.
That has happened before. So
I guess that had happened.
I know of at least 3 people gone sailing into the sunset.
Yes.
So amazing. Okay, that's really cool. Now, tell me about the kind of people that you provide workshops for. Are these governments, municipalities? How often do you do them? And how many people are working at the Foundation for Public Code?
So right now, I think we're about 6 people, but we're also starting a branch in the US.
Oh, man.
Because working in one organization across the EU and the US is a little bit troublesome for some legal reasons. So it's easier to have a local thing setting up there. And we don't have any employees there yet, only contractors, but we'll think that will take off. The municipalities that it's mostly municipalities.
Okay.
But really, we want to work with any public organizations, but it's easier for municipalities to see, oh, they're just like us. We can collaborate with them. Whereas if you're the Environmental Protection Agency, you're probably the single one in your country.
Yeah.
And it's harder to, all right, I need to go abroad to collaborate.
Yeah.
But really, that should be possible. And also for municipalities, they're also mostly the same in other countries as well. They're serving the same purposes, very basic ones for the residents. So whatever digital tools they have, it's probably applicable elsewhere as well.
Excellent. Are you talking about this work in your talk? Do you have a talk here at FOSS Backstage?
I don't have a talk here.
Oh, you're just here to have fun.
Yes, just here to have fun.
Me too.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's been excellent so far.
Yeah. Excellent. Tell me about the municipalities you're working with right now. Like, what was some recent ones that you can talk about?
Yes, so we're working with one of our feature things is with Amsterdam, and it's also sort of like where we started in Amsterdam.
Yep.
They have a code base for making it easy for residents and tourists to report issues in the city as they come across them. It might be a pothole or a broken street lamp or this trash can is overfull. And how to report that. And not only the front end, but also in a large municipality as Amsterdam, how do you route it to the right people to take care of it? And how do you keep track of the issue until it has been solved and reported back to the person who saw it, so they can see, oh, right, yes, now it's fixed. I'm happy with this. Or they can perhaps say, well, you took another pothole a few meters down the road. The one I reported is still there.
Yeah. Excellent.
So Amsterdam started it, wanted to make it open source, and now it's starting spreading across the Netherlands.
Cool.
But of course, this is a code base that could be used anywhere.
Yeah.
So we're hopefully want to see this spread along. And it's called Signalen. So if anyone wants to check it out, it's on signalen.org.
Well, I'm really interested actually. So in New Zealand in December, I saw road signs saying, please report all wallaby sightings.
Mm-hmm.
Last month, I read in my local newspaper in Vermont, US, please report all roadkill sightings.
Mm-hmm.
And last year, I worked facilitating a conversation at the city of Paris, where they also have an open source app for talking about potholes and the like. And so it seems to be a consistent thing to basically enable citizens to, if they see something, say something. Not to say that in particular, but in general.
Yes.
How is there not an organization that deals with just telling everyone, just use this code base for your constituents?
Well, that's sort of a little bit what we want to do.
Good.
Just sort of because we see this over and over again.
Everywhere.
Like a municipality who wants an application for the residents to file building permits or apply for. And in general, we heard talks already here, like Munich, they wanted to have, we need a form builder.
Yeah.
Because they realize, we have lots of different cases and we need a case management system. And you see them pop up over and over again as well. Even if many of them are open source, they're not invented here, or no, we are a little bit special, so we need something bespoke for us.
Exactly.
Which seems like, well, if only all of those who are already working open source on these things were working together, it would be so much better for everyone.
So tell me about your sneaky, perfidious strategies for convincing managers to buy this stuff, to take it on, because it is hard. There's a lot of I don't want to, no, we need this. And it would have worked, but now I have to make our own thing. And also I want to look good. So I want to write my own app, even though it costs millions of dollars. How do you convince people not to go down that route, but instead just adopt something that already exists?
So it's really hard to convince the people who have not already. I don't have a better word for it because my English is for.
They don't have it. Yeah, they haven't got it.
Yes, if they haven't got the core idea of open source, it's really hard to convince someone to really understand that you're building upon each other step by step, incrementally.
Yeah.
Sometimes we say building on the shoulders of giants, but I think that's a little bit like too big, because what we're really just doing is we're building small increments
building on the shoulders of humans.
Yes, of humans and like everyday people. But if everyone is chipping in, it's actually going to be so much better over time.
Yeah.
And if you have something that is consistent, like a public organization where you have a long-term strategy that they're going to be around for a long time, those small things add up really quickly and scale really well with several municipalities.
So tell me about your funding mechanisms at the moment.
At the moment, we're solely funded by private donation philanthropists. Okay. We're trying to look into how we can see, or not solely. We do have one public member, but we don't think the membership model for public organizations work really well because it takes so much buy-in from an organization to become a member. Usually it has to go up in the council, so we need both the grassroots to understand it and the politics.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to think now is, can we get the OSPOs at the national level to understand it? And all our municipalities need help with that.
Yeah.
And there are things that they cannot do right now because usually you have some sort of like municipal laws stating that what mandate it had, that they only can serve their own constituency. So things are going to fall in between the cracks. And that's where we think that like we can take care of all the things that are in between the cracks, which is usually the collaboration things. Like who is going to host the mailing server? Can we host a mailing server for another municipality where we're talking about and announcing new releases and stuff like that?
Yeah.
So we could be a neutral party in that, and perhaps then an federal OSPO can see, all right, that's what you're going to do, and can give us some subsidies for that.
So when we talk about code bases, it's easy to see that, just replicate the code base here, it doesn't get up. But what you're talking about is policy influencing and policy changes and trying to convince ministers and funders, hey, no, this is a good idea, let's do this. Are those resources open sourced? The stuff that you use to convince people?
Yes, well, everything we do is open sourced. So
cool.
We release everything CC0. The game here is CC0.
Excellent.
And
cool.
we recently sort of like said, well, now it's version 1.0 because now anyone could actually go to a printer. We have printing documents so you can just order your own decks.
Excellent.
And we were so happy. The Beak Center in the US were trying that out and did their own prints, and it actually worked quite fine. So we're happy to say, and they didn't even tell us until after. So they didn't even need to ask us. So apparently the documentation is good enough for someone to just go print your own game.
Where can people find that documentation?
governancegame.publiccode.net.
Cool. So there's a big OFE study about the power of open source that came out last year, or maybe the year before.
Time flies.
Millions of dollars. Yeah. It's been like, 10 years since COVID started? Tell me about whether or not you've had any inroads outside the Netherlands yet. Because I know that the EU tends to be very internally looking, but also kind of building walls, kind of digital sovereignty, kind of let's figure out how do we make this happen for ourselves. But surely it must be easy to work in the EU outside the Netherlands. How's that going?
Yes. So we do have a lot of conversations, both in France, Italy, Sweden. But how our process is formed about stewardship and our standard for public code that we talked in our last talk.
Yeah.
We haven't seen the buy-in that we want to see to really say, oh, now you're in incubation with us and we're serving you. But there certainly is interest, and I've been carrying around a bunch of standard for public codes here at the conference, and people are almost grabbing them out of my arms.
Good.
So that's really, really good.
Yeah. Have you noticed any massive cultural differences? Like, is it harder to work with Finns or something?
What we have noticed
not to stereotype and not to
but what we have noticed is that the reasons for open source, even within the champions and the people who are passionate, it's very different, even across Europe. So when we're talking about perhaps Sweden, people are thinking about it's going to be a cost saving.
Yeah.
When we're talking about Italy, it's more about like transparency. So people want to have access to the code that the public organizations are building. So it's a little bit of like always like coming back to sort of like the 4 freedoms, but different aspects are more important depending on where you come from.
Okay, so we have a reporting app. That's some civic stuff. What's next? What's the next thing you're working on?
Yes, that's a little bit hard to do. We hope that we will be working with the Open Fisca,
cool,
which is a French code base, trying to use rules as code and simulate changes. So I've been talking with them for a long time. It's a community who is already diverse, but also a little bit struggling since their funding is not always consistent, even across governments.
Yeah.
So, but that's where we have had the most interesting talks, and it's a very fascinating code base.
Interesting. Cool. FISCA?
Yeah.
Cool. You bring up a good point. Funding is really important to be consistent. When you work in the political sphere, there's always a possibility of backlash. We, again, heard that at the keynote yesterday about Munich, and we all know Munich tried to do stuff, then just things didn't work. And we also saw that in Brazil. We've seen that in South Africa. What are you doing to prepare against political changes to make it easier for you to do your work? How are you ensuring sustainability by bulwarking some of your policy decisions?
So that's actually a very good reason for the collaboration across borders, because it's unlikely that everyone would change at the same time.
Yeah.
So if a code base like a reporting app from Amsterdam would also be used in Germany, then if Amsterdam suddenly pulls back, well, it's still maintained by someone. Of course, if it's open source, it's also available for someone. I think Lauren yesterday excused herself for using the word digital sovereignty.
Yeah.
But there's something being said like, well, if the code is open sourced, you have it.
Yeah.
So in that sense, you're able to manage yourself.
Yeah.
So it's a different kind of sovereignty that I think the European politicians, they want to be not dependent on the US and China mostly. But what it really enables is that you're enabled yourself to do whatever you want to with it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's cool. Jan, I really wish you the best. Good luck. Where can people find out more again? I know you mentioned it earlier, but just at the end to wrap up.
You can find us at publiccode.net and of course the game at governancegame.publiccode.net.
Excellent. And where can people find you online?
I'm on Mastodon at Ainali at social.coop.
Excellent. You know what we should do? We should set up an online workshop where we could try and play this game, and maybe we could have people print it out at home and see if we could play remotely. Have you tried that?
We have tried that, and we also do have a version for Excalibur where everything is digitalized. However, standing around a small table for people where everyone can pull the cards, it's much more quicker and interactive, and people are, especially if you're not talking to digital natives, they love the cards so much more. It's
I'm a big card player, so I don't know if I need to be a digital native to enjoy cards. There you have it, folks. Jan, Ainali, thank you so much for coming on. Kiitos, that was excellent.
Thank you, Rich.
And have fun here at the conference.
Thanks.